Hello, I'm Jared Lawler. I'm an RF applications engineer with NuWaves Engineering, and I'm here today on the floor of IMS 2018 to talk to you about range extension. Now, we have a lot of military clients that are looking to extend the range of their communication systems, whether it's tactical radios, data links on UAVs, or telemetry off of manned aircraft, always looking to get that extra distance, that extra mile that they can't get with a standard radio. So there's a few things you can do to really make your communication system work better for you. First and foremost, look at the antenna system. If you're using an electrically small antenna, you're not going to get the most efficient use of your radio and of the spectrum. So at minimum, you should have a resonant antenna, say a quarter wave monopole whip style antenna. If you can go to a gain type antenna, say a parabolic dish, a Yagi type antenna, or even a monopole that has some gain to it, 5/8 waves, something like that, that's going to greatly increase the effectiveness of your antenna or your communication system. As well, it's a very efficient way, as you're not adding more power to the system, and things just work better that way. Height is another thing with your antenna. If you're being blocked by buildings, foliage, such things like that, you're not going to get near the range you're looking for. So put that antenna up high, make sure it's a good radiator. So in some applications, that's just not possible. Use small UAVs, you're lucky to put a quarter wave radiator on it and a little blade antenna, and that's all you're going to get. Plus you can't do directional because you're going to be turning, being in different orientations and such things. Another thing you can look at after you've taken a look at your antenna system is consider MIMO technology in your radio. So essentially take a 4x4 MIMO. It's essentially using 4 radios that can essentially direct your energy to where you're trying to talk. So if you had a 2-watt radio, 4 times 2, you effectively have now 8 watts of power. Now, there are some downsides to this. One of the things is you need at least an antenna for each channel of MIMO. So 4x4, you need 4 antennas. Going back to the small UAV example, 4 antennas likely aren't going to fit, at least fit well. Plus, look at, you take your manned aircraft, you're going to have 4 antennas, 4 holes in the airframe for a single communications device. Maybe not the best option. So, otherwise, are there other options? Let's take a look at the waveform. Are you using the most spectrally efficient waveform? Any waveform you use that has a narrow bandwidth is going to get you better range. Now, how is it getting you better range? Your receiver sensitivity is going to be much better with a narrow bandwidth signal than, say, something very wide like a high order quadratary amplitude modulated QAM signal. BPSK, very simple waveform, but hey, in 802.11 Wi-Fi type applications, you can still get 9 megabits of data throughput in a much narrower bandwidth signal, which is going to have a much better receiver sensitivity, thus greater range. So while I'm talking range, the big thing to look at is you need 6 dB of improvement to theoretically get twice the range. And I say theoretically, that's of course free space, nothing around, nothing for the signals to bounce off of, be absorbed by, and so on and so forth. So lastly, consider power amplification. Once you've got weighed the other options and you still need this range extension, consider a power amplifier. Again, 6 dB will get you twice the range. So say you have a 1 watt radio, bump that to 20 watts, you're going to have roughly 4 times the range. Again, that's theoretical numbers. Take into account any terrain, masking, and that sort of thing. Now to get 6 times your range, you're looking at 80 watts. So now things start to add up, and you got to take a look at how much power efficiency and how much power budget do you have on basically the DC side of things. At 20 watts, a 40% efficient power amplifier, you're going to need in the neighborhood of 50 watts of DC power, and so on and so forth, increases as we go higher in power. Again, why I said if you can do an antenna and make other changes like that, it really saves you some headache down the road and some power budget. But NuWaves has power amplifiers. We'd love to sell you one. Other options are LNAs on the receive side, especially if you have a very poor noise figure for your receiver, a very low noise figure, low noise amplifier will basically increase your receiver sensitivity by increasing your noise figure. So there's some options for range extension, and thank you for joining me.